What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Chat HVAC. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Chat HVAC, where we give you quick answers to your comfort questions. My name is Scott Jackson, and I'm the senior technician here at a heating and cooling company in Lebanon, Ohio called Comfort Solutions. And this show is all about, like I said at the beginning, bringing you quick answers to the questions that you have about your comfort system. It's not lost on us that HVAC is probably one of the more confusing aspects of the home. You know it comes on when you need it, and then when it doesn't, you don't really know what to do. But in this day and age of DIY being on the rise and people wanting to find out things for themselves, we don't want to shy away from you, the homeowner, wanting to learn as much as possible about your HVAC system. And we want to give you any and all knowledge that we can possibly give you to be able to equip you to, one, maybe make better decisions when it comes to your HVAC system and what you might need to do moving forward with repairs or replacement or things like that. And secondly, we also just want to educate you and allow you to have a resource to come to maybe answer some questions about your system. And that's exactly what today's episode is aimed at doing. Today, what we want to do is discuss, so we're getting into the wintertime. It's getting cold, at least where I'm at. I'm here in Southwest Ohio, and there's snow on the ground. It's cold. It's about 14 degrees right now as I'm recording this. And as you can see, I'm not in our usual studio space. I am a technician here, so I'm actually out on the road running calls today. And I just figured I'd pop in for a few minutes while I'm driving and record our weekly episode of Chat HVAC so we could still give you that valuable resource that we want to give you, even though things are picking up around here. But yeah, as we come into the winter, as things get colder, it gets a little bit more difficult to go without heat. If your furnace is having issues, or if your heating system, whatever it is, if it's a boiler, a geothermal, an air-to-air heat pump, whatever it is, if your heating system is starting to have issues, then that can be a problem, especially when you wake up and it's 55 degrees in your house, like the house I just left. This customer of ours woke up this morning about 4 a.m. and realized that their house is about 55 degrees. So that's it's a little chilly, a little cold to wake up to. So I'm out on the road trying to get that fixed, but we don't want that to be you, and we want you to be equipped to deal with the problem, to be able to assess the problem, and maybe be able to ask a technician some questions should you have a professional come out and evaluate your system. But before we dive into all of that, I want to remind you to go ahead and like this episode, subscribe to the show. If you're watching or listening on any sort of podcast platform like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, rate and review the show. We certainly appreciate it. We want to know what you had to say about it. If you like what we're doing here, that's great. Leave us a 5-star review. If not, and you want to complain about what we're doing here, leave us a 1-star review. That still helps us. Either way, you can't hurt us. But no, we do want to spread the word, and giving us ratings and reviews and comments and sharing the episode and subscribing and liking, all of that stuff. All of those things help us spread the word and get the information out to other homeowners like you who are interested in learning about their HVAC system, but maybe just don't have a reliable resource to go to. And that's what we want to be for you. We want to be your HVAC go-to source for information. So all that aside, let's go ahead and dive into today's episode and today's topic. This is all about some things that you can check as the homeowner before you give an HVAC company a call. Now, if you're here in Cincinnati area of Ohio, I'd like you to call us. Of course, our contact information is in the description of the show. Or if you just have any questions, you're not in Ohio, our website's also in the description. You're welcome to send us an email or give us a call. Sometimes you might even get me if you want to talk to me and ask me some questions. So we'd be happy to hear from you. But today's episode is all about what are some things that you can check on your own before calling a professional to maybe rule out some of those more nuisance service calls, because there's nothing worse than calling an HVAC company out to take a look at your system because the heat stopped working and you get charged $140 to change batteries in the thermostat when you could have done that yourself, right? So we all want to avoid that. We want you to avoid that. We don't want you to be in a spot where you find yourself paying for something that maybe you could have taken care of for yourself. So what are some things that you can do before you give an HVAC company a call? So Just for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to be talking in terms of gas furnaces, just because that is the most common source of heating that we have in this area, and probably a lot of the area outside of the southern half of the country. But I'm going to be talking in that context because it's most applicable here. Just there's so many different types of heating systems. You got boilers, you got heat pumps, you got geothermals, which is a type of heat pump. And it can be incredibly difficult to kind of parse out all these differences. And I would be here for 3 hours. And the whole point of the show is to give you quick answers. So we're going to be talking about gas furnaces today, specifically some things that you can check before you give us a call. That being said, if you want an episode like this relating to heat pumps, relating to boilers, relating to geothermal heat pumps, whatever type of system it may be that isn't a gas furnace that you might have, leave us a comment below and let me know. Say, hey, Scott, I want you to do an episode of things that I can check if I have a heat pump system. We can do that for you. So we just want to make sure that, we're helping everybody, helping as many people as we can. But today's episode is going to be about gas furnaces. So first things first, and I have mentioned this ad nauseum doing this show. And if you've watched the show for any amount of time or seen any amount of episodes, you probably know what I'm about to say. Check your filter, check your air filter. So that's number one. First thing that you can check is your air filter. Some symptoms that your furnace might be showing to indicate maybe we've got a plugged filter is if your blower is running, but the heat, it's not hot. Typically what happens with a plugged filter is it'll set the furnace off on a high limit error, which just means that the furnace overheated. That's all it means. It wasn't able to generate enough volume of air to go across the heat exchanger. The heat exchanger got too hot and the safety switch turned it off, which is a very good thing. But the result of that is the blower continues to run, the flame goes out, and you'll get cold air coming out of your vents, okay? So if you hear your blower running, you feel air coming out of your vents, but it's not hot like your furnace usually is, maybe go check your air filter. Check your air filter, shut the power off to your furnace, wait 10 seconds, turn it back on. That'll clear any faults that might be stored in the board or anything like that, or any active faults, because it whenever it recycles power, it'll check and see if there's any faults and it'll retry for ignition. So if you have cold air coming out of your vents, the thing that I would point you to is to check your filter. And that's probably the biggest symptom of that particular problem. But believe it or not, it is a call that I get a lot. I know it sounds simple. I know it sounds boring. I know it sounds plain. Believe it or not, I go out and I have so many service calls that are a 1-inch filter that's been in there for 2 years and hasn't been changed. And it's just caked with dust and no air is able to get past it. The furnace is going out on high limit. So yeah, check your air filter. That's the first thing that you can check. The second thing that you can check is, so a lot of the furnaces nowadays are what we would call 90% efficient furnaces. And I've said this in a previous episode, but just real quick, a way that you can tell visually if you have a 90% furnace or an 80% furnace is if the exhaust pipe on the top front of your furnace is metal. That's an 80% efficient gas furnace that probably goes out through your roof. If it is 2-inch or 3-inch white PVC pipe, like that plastic type material, that is a 90% efficient or higher furnace. So what's real common, especially here in Ohio, we've got a lot of snow and ice over the last few days. And one of the most common problems that I see is the exhaust pipe outside getting frozen over, whether it's snow is getting in front of it and it's plugging the exhaust and it's not able to get out, or the more common problem is there will be screens over top of the exhaust pipe, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but that 90% efficient gas furnace exhaust condenses. So what that means is essentially the vapor that's coming out of the exhaust pipe is at such a low temperature compared to your 80% efficient exhaust. It condenses, it produces condensation. So that condensation, when it runs across the grill that can be on the front of the pipe or the mesh cover or whatever you have on there, when it blows across that, little condensation droplets get stuck on there and they'll freeze and it'll like freeze over the front of the pipe. Some people may say that doesn't happen. Some people might call me crazy. I've seen it happen personally a lot over the last 10 years. So this is probably one of the more common errors as it relates to the exhaust being plugged up. If your thermostat tells you error codes or things like that, you'll typically see a pressure switch error code or something along those lines. And what's happening is the draft inducer is not able to, it's restricted. So it's not able to have proper clearance. And the furnace knows it's not safe to light because it can't properly expel the gases out of the heat exchanger through the flue. So check your exhaust pipe outside. Make sure it's not covered in snow. Make sure it doesn't have ice on it. Make sure it's not blocked or restricted by leaves because we just came out of the fall season as well. So those are all really, really good things to check. So first thing, check your filter. We want to make sure that your filter's checked. Second thing, we want to make sure that your exhaust pipe is clear and free of any obstructions. Those are both extremely simple things that you as the homeowner can check yourself. And that would save you the need to call somebody like us out to your home for something that was extremely simple. And it would certainly cost you a lot less to take care of it yourself. Not that we don't want you to call us, but we just believe in empowering the homeowner with information. We believe that you should know as much about your system as you have the desire to know. Because the fact of the matter is, it's your system, you live there, this is your equipment, and you should know how it works to the extent that you want to know how it works. And if you're listening to this show, you are probably of the variety that likes to know how your equipment works. So that's the whole point of today's episode. We just want to explain some of the basic diagnostics that we'll look at and some solutions to some really basic problems that we come across a lot. Now, the third thing you can check, it's a little bit more involved, so bear with me here. It's a little bit harder and a little bit more complicated than just checking your exhaust pipe or checking your filter. And I would not recommend doing any sort of work or anything on your furnace if it's still under warranty. I would stick with the first two and maybe avoid this last one, because if it's under warranty, things should be covered and don't worry about it. And that's typically inside 10 years. But if your furnace is out of warranty, one thing that you can look at, and the third thing, the final thing that we'll talk about today, is your flame sensor. So your flame sensor is a little rod that has a wire attached to the bottom of it that goes to your control board. The purpose of the flame sensor is in the name. It's very aptly named. It senses the flame. So this is the device that tells the furnace control board, which is kind of the brain of the furnace, that we do in fact have a flame present. The furnace can go through its order of operation and process for ignition, and it can even successfully ignite. But if it does not have proof that it did in fact ignite, the furnace is going to shut itself off on safety, and it's going to be because of the flame sensor. Now, telling this from in your house when you're not in front of your furnace is a little bit more difficult. But if you feel like your furnace isn't working or your house is starting to get cold, go down in front of your furnace, watch it start to come on. What you'll see is the furnace will light, and then the flame will go out approximately 1 to 5 seconds after ignition. So the flame will light, and then it will go out virtually immediately. Like I said, within 1 to 5 seconds after ignition. That is textbook flame sensor issue. It's this little rod that's in there. And what you can do is it's either on the right or the left-hand side of your burner compartment. So if you're looking at your gas furnace, it'll be up at the top. And then on the right or left-hand side, you'll see something on both. One will be your igniter, your hot surface igniter, which typically has 2 wires going to it. And then the other one is your flame sensor, usually only has 1 wire going to it. That's your flame sensor. It's just one little rod. And if you watch your furnace, the one that glows orange is your igniter. The one that doesn't really do anything is your flame sensor. So it's not going to glow. It's not going to make any noise. It's just a little rod that sticks in the flame. There should be 1 screw holding it into the bottom of the burner compartment. You should be able to pull that out. Slide your flame sensor out. Look at it. Typically, if you take like a Scotch-Brite pad, like those green sponge pads, don't use sandpaper. Don't use anything abrasive. Use just a Scotch-Brite pad and run over it and clean it off. Get all that carbon buildup off of the rod, and then put it back in. Turn the power back on. Make sure you turn the power off first. I should have said that at the beginning. Turn the power off first. Flip the power back on once you put in the flame sensor again, and then you will be all set to go, and your flame should retain. But what I will say is that I would only use that to get you through the weekend or get you through a pinch. Typically, if you have to start cleaning your flame sensor, I would just recommend you replace it. Just from a technician standpoint, that's just my opinion. If you disagree with me, that's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. So I know somebody is out there screaming at their screen right now saying, Scott, you moron, you don't have to replace it. But if you disagree with me, that's fine. you're not the one on the show right now. This is my show, so I can I can say what I want. But yeah, if you get to the point where you're starting to have to clean your flame sensor on a pretty regular basis, more times than once a season, yeah, I would really consider just replacing that flame sensor. It's probably lived its life. So those are the 3 tips that I would give you, 3 things that you can check before you give us a call to potentially fix your furnace yourself. So, just to review before we get out of here today, the first thing that you can look at is your air filter. The second thing that you can look at is make sure that your exhaust is free and clear of any obstructions outside. It's your PVC pipe that you'll see. It kind of looks like a periscope sometimes. They come out and up, or they just stick straight out, or they stick out and down. But you know what they look like. You've seen them there. You're probably familiar with it if it's your own home. And then the third thing, and again, I would put a little disclaimer on this. I would really only do this if your equipment is out of warranty. You don't want to avoid any warranties or anything like that. Manufacturers are pretty picky about that. So I would check your flame sensor, follow the steps that we just talked about, and then you should be all set to go. Guys, I really appreciate you tuning in to today's episode of Chat HVAC. It's really a pleasure to do this and bring this information to you. And really what we hope it does is we sincerely hope that it provides value. We sincerely hope that it gives you information. We don't charge anything for this show. We don't ask anybody to contribute financially or anything to this show. We just want to give homeowners good, accurate, concise information to answer their questions about their HVAC system. We just want them to understand it as much as they want to understand their system. Before we get out of here today, just a quick reminder, go ahead and like and subscribe to the show. We're trying to get to that 100 subscribers mark as quickly as we possibly can, and then we'll reach some more goals beyond that. But if you don't mind, share the episode with a friend. If you found this helpful, go ahead and share it with somebody who maybe likes to work on their stuff themselves as well. And if you're listening on a podcast platform, go again, rate, review. We'd certainly appreciate it. And on that note, we're going to go ahead and get out of here for today. My name is Scott Jackson. This is Chat HVAC, and we will see you all next week.